Thank you, Pam. I have to say, somebody said to me yesterday, "Boy, you've got a gorgeous wife." And I said, "Yeah, how do you know that? She's in Conway, Arkansas right now." But we've had a booth together here the last couple of days and really enjoyed being here. This is the first time that we've been a part of this program. And I'll tell you what, I've just had my eyes opened in a lot of different ways. My name is Doug Hoffman. I'm the Executive Director of NORMI, which is the National Organization of Remediators and Mold Inspectors. And I'm not a doctor, son of a doctor, didn't play a doctor on TV. But I do know mold. And I want to tell you a little bit about my background and then what we're here to talk about today. We don't have a lot of time, but I want to tell you right up front that our books are available. We're going to be on a signing table on the outside of this room because they've got to get this room done. I would love for you to at least pick up some of our brochures and maybe our books. I think we can help you. From the standpoint of understanding the seriousness of the problem, Pam's book will help you with that. In terms of really understanding the solution, I think I can help you with that. I was in the construction business for 32 years in the state of Florida. I have 3 contractor's licenses: general contractor, plumbing contractor, and a roofing contractor. And I want to tell you, for 30 years, I built unhealthy homes. I built environments that were toxic for people to live in. I built homes that I know that people suffered from because I didn't know any better. I also know that I spent the first 30 years of my construction life building toxic homes and creating problems, and I'm spending the rest of my life trying to solve them. The reality is that many of the indoor air quality issues that people have, including toxic mold, which is one of the things that fits under the umbrella of indoor air quality, the problems that people have with indoor air quality are typically because of the way we build. You typically have 2 kinds of reactions to mold. Somebody will say, "Oh, what's the problem with mold? It's been here since Leviticus." That's true. And then you have, on the other hand, people that say, "Oh, you've got mold. It must be toxic. Tear down your house." Well, the truth, like so many things, is somewhere in the middle. The reality is that many people react to their environments, and those environments are often toxic environments. And they react to those environments in all different types of ways, in so many different ways. And because of so many different types of molds and different types of toxins and different types of levels, because of our own immune systems, they react so differently that there's never been a way for anybody to quantify it to a point where they could say, well, if you have this much mold in your environment, then it's dangerous. So there are no standards for toxic mold in environments. There are only 2 states in the country that have written licensing laws for mold professionals, which means that in the mold business there's a lot of fraud. There's a lot of guys out there that are finding a mold under every rock, and they're going to make you rebuild your house when it's unnecessary. Unfortunately, there are only 2 states right now that have licensing laws, the state of Louisiana and the state of Texas. And you know what they tell you? You know when you need to remediate? When you have 20 square feet of visible mold in your house. That's a lot of mold. And there are a lot of people that have very toxic reactions to very low levels of mold, and in some cases in molds when you can't even see that it's present. And so our approach has been this. Our approach has been to do training. And we started the organization, the National Organization of Remediators and Mold Inspectors. We started that 4 years ago in the state of Louisiana. In fact, we started a year before Hurricane Katrina hit. I built a house in New Orleans area, finished it 5 weeks before Hurricane Katrina. Had no problems with the house, thank the Lord. We were very safe where we were, had no flooding problems. But that's one of the reasons why I'm glad now that I'm here and my wife is in Arkansas, because of what we've had to deal with today. But let me tell you, we've been in the mold capital of the world. People ask me sometimes, they say, well, you must be interested in mold because you live in a petri dish. Well, it's kind of true. Except the truth is, this is the truth. The truth is we have over 2,800 members all over the country. We do training from Portland, Oregon, to Maine, to Florida. We just recently signed an agreement to start training in Europe, in France, in Brazil, in Portugal, all over the world. You know why? Because mold is an indoor air quality problem. It has little to do with what's going on outside, everything to do with what's going on inside. One of the worst things that happened to the construction industry in the United States was the International Building Code. You know what that means? It means that the way you build in Florida is the way that you build in Portland, Oregon. And the way you build in Portland, Oregon is the way you build in Las Vegas. And the way you build in Las Vegas is the way you build in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Which means that if you have problems in Florida and Louisiana, you're going to have those same kinds of problems everywhere in the United States. Why? Primarily it's because of the way we build. As a remediator, we've learned that 80 to 90% of the problems that we find in people's homes are because they've not managed their indoor air quality. And so I want to just do a little bit of training, give you a concept of what we do, and then hopefully we can talk, maybe answer some questions for you at our booth. When you look at indoor air quality, we train saying that there are 7 different components of indoor air quality. All 7 of these components have to be addressed. Mold is in there, but where does it fit? Which is a good question. So when you look at these 7, you look at the particles, you look at the biopollutants, you look at the odors, you look at the temperature and the relative humidity, you look at the gases, you look at the comfort. Those are the 7 components of indoor air quality. And talking about indoor air quality, probably the first one that people would be familiar with are particles, the dust, the stuff that's settled out. You know what's in the dust? If you look at a shaft of light, over 80% of the particles that you see floating around in the air that you don't typically see because they're so small is dead skin cells. That's why I don't like going to movie theaters, because I'm sucking in the air and the skin of everybody that's been in that room over the last few weeks. You've got pollen. You've got mold spores. Cats and dogs put off 5 to 10 times as much dead skin as humans do. Dog dander. And all those particles are floating around in the air. And it's not just the particles that are allergens. It's oftentimes the things that are floating on those particles. If I sneezed up here, somebody would catch what I've got. And it's not because I hit you with my sneeze. It's probably because it got on some particle floating around here, and because you stayed up late last night and you've got a depressed immune system, you sucked it down into your lungs, and now you're sick, and you've got what I've got. The indoor air quality, I want to stop here for a second. The indoor air quality industry traditionally has addressed that problem and that problem only with filtration. Get the stuff to a filter, and you've solved all of your problems. But it doesn't address the odors. There are all kinds of odors in our environments. And we know about cats and dogs and those kinds of things. We know about potpourri, the kinds of things that are actually symptoms of other chemicals that are going on in our environment. We've also got all kinds of gases. You probably know that most of us have enough chemicals under our kitchen sink to kill a couple of elephants. And that stuff's off-gassing. And we've got formaldehyde, and we've got adhesives, and we've got carpeting, and we've got paints. Did you know that some paints will continue to off-gas for up to 10 years? Absolutely correct. So you've got volatile organic compounds, which is typically a combination of the two, odors and gases. This is a really good example of secondhand smoke. Secondhand smoke is at least all 3 of these. A single cigarette will produce over 4,000 chemical gases, 43 of which are carcinogenic. And of course, it's the odor. So when you successfully suck the particles out of an environment, but it still smells like an ashtray, it's because you've not done anything with the gases or the odors. And then you've got biologicals, E. coli, MRSA, you know better than I do, salmonella, all the kinds of things that are biological contaminants. And then, of course, you've got to control the temperature and the relative humidity. I wish I had time to talk with you about how important that is to controlling mold growth. In the HVAC industry, the air conditioning contracting industry, and the construction trade, there's a graph called the psychrometric graph. And it takes relative humidity and temperature and plots those together. And by plotting that on an environment, you can tell the potential for mold growth in that environment by those 2 factors alone. And then, of course, air movement. These 7 components are extremely important to understanding the magnitude of the problem. When you've got a multi-faceted problem like that, you've got to have a multi-strategic solution. So how does mold fit in? Well, mold at some stage is a particle. It's a mold spore. And then it lays on some nutrient. It starts eating, and with the right kind of relative humidity or a little bit of moisture, it starts putting off mycotoxins. It's almost like it's breathing. Here's a great picture for you. If you take you know how we eat. We take things inside, and we eat inside, and all of the enzymes of our stomach and everything are